Welcome to the latest episode of the National Leadiology Association podcast. We are continuing with Elevating Standards, the Leadership Blueprint, based on Bill Walsh's 6 guidelines for establishing your standards of performance. I am your host, Dr. Amin Sanaia, leadiologist, thought leader, and author. As usual, I have the privilege to be joined by my tag team partner, Tanner Thorp.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tanner Thorp, human being, culture warrior, thought leader. I love being on these. We got some exciting stuff to talk about.
Yes. So as we move along, today, it's something that is very near and dear to our hearts. And it's about building relationships connection. Wow. So human connections is one of the most vital things in our existence. And I'm sure you can agree with that, Tanner. For both of us, I mean, just being able to connect with people is important. That fills my cup every single day.
Absolutely.
The interactions with people, being able to serve someone, being able to fill someone's cup, being able to mentor, coach, so many things. Um, what does that for you when you hear building relationships? What does that resonate with?
So I think first, connection is fundamental to who we are.
Yes.
And no matter who you are on the planet, you need connection. You need that fundamental basis of how do you relate to other people. And then as far as building relationships, I mean, it's so important to how we grow and how we mature and how we learn. I mean, if you don't have good, strong, honest relationships in your life, where are your checks and balances?
Yes.
You know, who's going to hold you accountable? I mean, like my favorite people on the planet, you, my buddy Thomas, my buddy Ennis, you know, some of our other friends, Cody and Naresh, you know, we can have those honest conversations where if I'm acting a fool or I'm out of pocket, you guys hold me accountable. Or if I'm off, you know, maybe I'm suffering from something that I'm not articulating well and my energy is different. I mean, how many times have you said to me, Tanner, that your energy just seems off, right?
Yep.
And you know, maybe at that point I'm not ready to talk about it, but having that relationship where somebody recognizes that about me, you know, it helps me grow. Right? Nobody does life alone.
Oh, without a doubt. How can we go through life without being able to have people check you, right? It's like, hey, hold on a second. Whoa. Are you okay? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the last thing any of us want are just yes men around us or yes people
Yes.
around us, right? Like one of my favorite therapist is a guy by the name of John Kim, and he goes by the moniker the Angry Therapist. And I actually he has a coaching school, and I went to his coaching school. And one of his sayings I really like is, "If everybody likes you, nobody likes you."
Oh, without a doubt. Oh my God.
And what he's
Powerful words right
yeah,
there.
and what he's really saying is like, if you're in the room and everybody in that room likes you, you may need to find a different room, right? Like if everybody likes you, nobody likes you. You're around people who are either trying to kiss your ass, you know, who are disingenuous, who just want something from you. You know, my favorite people on the planet, they don't want anything from me than honest relationship.
Absolutely. You want people in your life that want the best for you, not something from you.
Yeah. You sent me a text message the other night. Actually, you sent it to a friend group that we're in, and it said, "I want to surround myself with people who pray for me behind my back."
That's it.
Isn't that the truth?
That's it. I mean,
That's it.
what
Right.
else do you need in life? I don't need anything else in life, just a little more grace. That's it.
Absolutely.
If I can get a little more grace, be the happiest man alive.
Yeah.
That's it. I learned at a very young age that having a lot of people in your life or a lot of people in your circle, or uh, just having relationships that are transactional,
Hmm.
that is not good for you.
Yeah.
That is not good for you.
Yeah. I like to say, because I have a big personality, and I love to, just like you, I love people.
Yes.
Right. So I like to say, I know a lot of people. I have a lot of acquaintances, but my circle's really small. It's really small, and it's intentional for that way. Right. And I love what you say about transactional relationships. I had an experience, a couple of years ago. So I know this guy. He's a dear friend of mine, and he is a very big personality. He's the guy that he knows everybody, and you actually know Anthony Camerano. I mean, he is Mr. Personality. He's the one who, if you need 15,000 pounds of lobster today, he knows a guy, right? You need a ice sculpture, by 3 o'clock this afternoon. He knows a guy, right? The guy knows
Yeah.
everybody. And so he and I were actually working together, and a person came to us and was introducing someone else to both of us. And he said Anthony is very relational. And this is how he was describing us to the person that he met. Anthony is very relational. He's going to call you just to see how you're doing, shoot the breeze. He's his phone book in his cell phone has 5,000 contacts in it. And then he turned to me and he said, Tanner's very transactional.
Oh.
You're only going to hear from Tanner
Oh.
when he needs information or he needs something done.
Wow.
Right. Now, this was a salesperson relationship,
Sure.
but it really, it took me aback. It took me aback. It was a conversation that I walked away from, and I went, I like to think of myself as a relational person, but am I truly relational in every interaction that I have? I'm not. In that type of dynamic, in that relationship with that sales representative and the person that he was introducing me to, I don't need to be your friend. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be nice to you. It
Exactly.
doesn't mean that I'm not going to treat you with courtesy and dignity and respect and empathy and grace and all of those things. But um, you're not you're not you're not vital to my survival in a relational aspect. You're vital to my success in a transactional aspect. And so it really made me take a step back and start analyzing, what relationships am I truly relational in?
Mhm.
What relationships am I truly transactional in? What relationships do I need to bridge that gap a little
Okay.
bit? And who do I want to present as? You know, and it's made me more intentional about how I show up in the relationships that I foster in my life.
Man, you're oh my God, you're making me think really hard now. Uh as those words that you just said, I mean, after that story, that and it's true. I can say it's the same thing for me. I do have relationships that are just that, and those are just business relationships. I'm not looking to do anything with anyone, and I know I've had so many, well, I guess so many vendors or business salespeople that they want something from me, they want my business, they want whatever, and they try so hard. I mean, they try really hard, but I'm
Yeah.
like, no, at a distance, just send me an email or whatever. And now I'm not rude or disrespectful. It's just I only have so much time in the day. We cannot be friends because you want to do a business transaction with me.
Exactly. Well, and our emotional cup, it's only filled up and dispersed out for so many interactions, right? And my emotional cup is important to me. I want to be intentional in those relationships that are truly relational, right? And to the point that you just made, just because you're trying to sell me a product doesn't mean that we have to be friends, and doesn't mean that I need to dispense um my emotional fluid, my emotional capacity on that relationship, because then where does that lead me in the relationships that truly do need my emotional capacity, right?
Yep. You're taking away from that which is truly important
Yeah.
for something that unfortunately at the end of the day it's just transactional.
Yeah, I'm very protective of that piece of me now, and that's come with growth over the years, right? I mean, being a big personality, you're a big personality also. I mean, early on in my career, I did want to be friends with everyone, and yeah, you're trying to sell me something, but yeah, let's go out to that restaurant, or let's yeah, go ahead and bring me all the samples. If I don't need the samples, if I don't need the dinner from you, like, you can't buy my friendship, you can't buy my relationship, you can't buy my professional capacity or emotional engagement and involvement, not
Well,
anymore.
no. It's funny you say that because if you probably speak to a lot of the companies that try to sell stuff, they know me very well, being in the industry for about 30 years. They will all tell you the same thing. Don't I don't ask me to go to dinner. Don't ask me to go to lunch. Don't buy me anything. Don't send me anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't want it. That is not me. Um, and it's the reason why it's not me is because I learned that at a very young age from, the greatest man I ever known is my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he tried to get bought out. Yeah. And when we used to live in Dominican Republic, by the president of that country, and he couldn't buy him out with a blank check. So
That is an incredible high level of integrity, right? Because
yeah,
in today's society, we like to think that everybody has a price,
yep,
right? But
no,
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 you can't buy my integrity.
no,
You can't buy my loyalty,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
can't buy my respect.
no,
All of those things have to be earned, right? And
absolutely,
it's not going to be earned in transactions.
no, and that's why I'm built the way I'm built. And when I truly tell someone that my word means everything, I am not lying. So if I'm telling you I'm going to do something, you don't have to ask me 5,000 times.
Right.
I'm telling you. Why? Because that's the way I'm built. That's how I was raised. So those are things, those are tidbits that leaders really understand. That as you grow in your leadership positions, learn to be that person of integrity, honor, that your word means something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be like in today's society that words mean nothing, pretty much, as people can just twist your words and change them around to whatever they feel like you're
Yep.
saying. No, don't tell me how I feel like you're saying. This is the words I use verbatim. I'm very
Yeah.
intentional on the words I use because you can't twist them or try to say that I say something else.
Yeah.
Let's get into our first question as we went on that rabbit hole. uh,
Like we do.
uh, par for the course. All right. So the question that we're going to start off with is, how can leaders balance the need for strong relationships with the demand for extraordinary accountability?
Well, so I think you just talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's being intentional and honest with your conversations, right? So no one can twist your words. So when we're talking about extraordinary accountability, right, along with that comes integrity. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? And can you be held accountable to what you said you were going to do? And as you're building the relationships with your team, and your teams recognize your integrity and your accountability, then they know, hey, there's no gray area here. Things are very black and white. And in that, I know what the expectations are for me, and that fosters good relationships. We were talking about it right at the beginning. We want to have authentic, honest relationships around us, right? Yes. And that doesn't mean that everybody's just going to agree with what we say.
No.
We've talked about it before on these podcasts, that we want to have a room where all voices have the ability to be heard. Yeah. And in their ability to be heard, they have to be honest with us. And that's extraordinary accountability. Right. Mm-hmm. And that builds those relationships. It builds the respect.
Yes. Being able to listen, have the emotional maturity to listen to others, their points of views, and think through it a little bit before making a decision. Because there are times when other people's opinions and ideas can trigger or be the ones that help take that project to the next level. It cannot be just what you think, what you want. That's a recipe for failure in many different levels. Number one, because one person doesn't have all the information. That's not possible. Second, because now you're not having those human connections, those people connections, because people are going to stop giving their opinions if they don't feel that they're being valued or listened to.
Right. Good leaders shouldn't drive the bus. Right. Good leaders should build the roadmap. And when they need to step in and give relief for the driver of the bus, then they can step in and give relief for the driver of the bus. But the leader shouldn't be driving the bus. Right. The leader should be the navigator. Right. How are we getting to where we're going? And sometimes there may be a shortcut that somebody else knows, well, I see that you have us going this way. We did, you and I did a training on scrums about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
Right. And it was a painful couple of days learning about scrums. And it wasn't painful because the information is painful. It was painful because of the teacher that we had. But one of the things that was powerful about scrums and that scrum training is, and they use software development as an example. And what I really liked about it was when you have the initial idea of what you want your software to be like. Yes. And then you have kind of what the end product is going to be. There's a length of time between both of those things, from inception to market execution. If you're not regularly checking in along the way and saying, hey, are we still going in the same direction? Are we still meeting our benchmarks? But most importantly, is the product that we want to deliver to market at the end still what the market wants? Because with software technology, I mean, it changes all the time. Yeah, and if you just prod forward without having those regular check-ins and checking the market to make sure that it's really what is wanted or needed, you could spend all of this time, all of this money, and end up with a product that is obsolete by the time you get there. And I think that's probably the most important thing that I took away from that training. And it's one of the most important things that leaders can do. Right? It's not driving the bus. It's those regular check-ins. Are we still going to meet what our original intention was? And is our end product still what we want it to be? And the leaders shouldn't be deciding that by themselves. They should have their team saying, okay, this is where we need to check and adjust. This is where we need to change course a little bit. This is not going to be a viable product. Instead, we think it needs to be evolved into this, right?
Yes. So when I put this question together, I was thinking on a couple of things. One, what you just said, it's very on point. The second is that some leaders think, and I wouldn't call them leaders, I would say managers, think that because you have a close or strong enough relationship with someone else, uh, you cannot hold them accountable.
Mm.
And that's where
that's a dangerous area.
yeah. So that is something, especially for young leaders, is a really big learning curve.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just because we have a strong relationship, that doesn't mean that uh, at some point we lose the sight that there's a leader and there's a person that works for the leader. And in business, um, you can have strong relationships because I've had them with the majority of my directors throughout my almost 30-year career. I've always had them
Yeah.
very strong relationships with my directors, but they also do know that there's an ownership accountability piece to that I am going, if there's something wrong, we're going to have those conversations. We're going to
Yeah.
have those hard conversations. That doesn't mean that I'm going to disrespect you or scream, yell. No,
No.
that means that we are going to have those hard conversations because we need to. That's
Absolutely.
that's that's part of the accountability ownership piece that it needs to be always there, that people understand that there's that respect level that we're still, you know, have to have those conversations.
Yeah. I would say if you find yourself in a position or in a situation where you feel like you can't hold one of your team accountable, then you really need to reevaluate what that relationship is.
Yes.
Right. Because there's got to be a lot of other external factors there. Why do you feel like you can't hold them accountable? Do you feel like they're going to quit? Right. Do you feel like they're not going to listen to you? Do you feel like they're going to talk bad about you behind your back to other team members and be divisive? I mean, there's a lot of depth to why you can't hold somebody accountable. And if you can't hold them accountable, one, you need to check yourself as a leader.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
two, you need to reevaluate your team, right? Because, as we're talking about building relationships, and you and I had a robust conversation with some others about respect yesterday. Shameless plug here if you're not listening to the NPN Hub, Neuroplasticians Network. Dr. Amin holds a roundtable once a month on his Crave leadership model that is fantastic. But yesterday we were talking about respect.
Yes.
And if you can't hold someone accountable, do you truly respect them? And will they ever truly respect you? Because like we talked about in the beginning, the authenticity piece, right? Authentic relationships are ones where you can be honest with each other.
Yep.
I don't always see my gaps. Tunnel vision. Like I get focused on what I'm doing. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable enough to step in and say, hey, Tanner, you need to try this different, or you're missing this piece, or you have a gap here. How am I ever going to improve? And if I can't do that with them, how are they going to improve? But when I can, and all of the relationships that are truly important to me, we can have those kind of conversations. We just continue to grow and grow and grow and get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Man, you must be reading my mind. So I wrote some things down before we this morning while I was pondering, just thinking about connection. Uh, and this is what I wrote, and I mean reference to John Maxwell. I listened to a lot of his stuff, being a John Maxwell certified coach, trainer, and speaker. So when you speak about connecting, the most important piece is you have to get over yourself.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is that if you think people connections is about you, about what you're getting out of this relationship, then that's
You've already
not,
failed.
yeah, that's not people connection.
Yeah.
So just tip for young leaders, people connections, the first thing you have to do is get over yourself. It's not about you.
Right. Right. I read something this morning that said, if you truly want to be intentional and authentic, and make no mistake, showing up intentionally is being authentic, then you have to recognize that you have to kill your ego.
Yes.
There has to be death to your ego, because you cannot truly be intentional and authentic when it's arrows in.
Absolutely. Arrows out,
Right.
baby.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. All right, let's go to some rapid fire keywords. So I intentionally put down some words that I know we can have some meaningful conversations on.
Yeah.
The first, emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, utilizing emotional intelligence to build trust and rapport. A lot of people don't understand, and especially as young leaders, that we have to really look at ourselves. We have to work on ourselves. And one way to do that is uh, really look at the possibility of taking um, personality tests, not
Oh
as a
yeah.
predictive index, and those are helpful, but there's some that do emotional intelligence assessment, and those are wow, like life changing. For me, it was life changing understanding the areas that I needed to grow, uh, that I needed to be intentional about growing, and it having those different pieces, that emotional maturity, um, being able to understand others, how your relationship with others are, how do you perceive yourself, how do others perceive you, even more
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're able to use tools to really work on yourself and work on that emotional intelligence piece, that's when you grow as a human being, not only
Oh
just as a
yeah.
leader, but as a human being. And then you start attracting the right people into your life, into your circle, and in your workplace.
Yeah, so I love everything you just said, and I got a lot to say about this. So I couldn't agree more that self-assessments are really important, especially when it comes to trying to understand who you are, how you show up, and how you relate to others, and how you hold space for them. So as you know, my third guiding principle in my life is forgiveness is a superpower.
Yes.
But oftentimes the person that we struggle to forgive the most is ourselves, right? More than anybody else. And so I was having a conversation with a leader the other morning, and we were talking about Carl Jung and this famous psychoanalyst and his work on shadow work. right? And I was telling this person that there's a lot of self-assessments that you can take out there so that you can really understand where you're at in your shadow self and some of the work that you need to do there. I bring this up because it is key to emotional intelligence. Understanding who you are and some of the work that you need to do. And I think it's important to state also that when you're doing shadow work, you also need to do light work, right? So
Yes.
as much as you want to dig down on things that you want to change about yourself, or where you may need to fix some things that are deep down inside, it's also important to do some light work where you're saying, okay, but these are also things that I do really well, so that you have that balance, because shadow work can get really dark really quick. But I think it's so key to your emotional intelligence, because once you recognize how you show up for you,
Yes.
then you can recognize how do you show up for others in the conversations that you're having, in the relationships that you're having. I just recently had a leader that we had to move on from. And the number one reason that we had to move on from this person was because they lacked emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They could not relate to their teams. And one of the things that they did, and we had multiple conversations about this, very, very frank and open and honest conversations of I want to help you show up in the best way that you can, but you have to do this work and you have to recognize this about yourself. Is they would repeat themselves multiple times after the person had already heard them. So they're working with their team, and they're saying, this is the way I need it done. Well, don't forget, this is the way that I need it done. Well, I think I already told you this is the way I need it done. While the team is already doing it the way that was asked of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized in this leader that it was their thought process. It was how they worked through what their expectations were, but they didn't have the emotional intelligence to realize that by about the fourth or fifth time that you repeated yourself to them, to the team, they felt like you were talking down to them.
Yep.
And it came across that they weren't smart enough to understand what your expectations were, regardless of whether they were doing it or not. And it created such a great divide. And in trying to explain this to this leader and say, this is my observation of what you're doing, and this is the feedback that I'm getting from your team, they still couldn't get it. It was, well, the team's not doing this. And well, I just need to make sure that it's happening this way. They get it. They understand. And so emotional intelligence is so vitally important to being a good leader. And another distinction that I want to make about emotional intelligence is you need to continually check in with yourself on where your emotional intelligence lies, right? Because emotional intelligence is a skill that has to continually be honed. Because as we evolve as leaders, and going back to the ego, the death of the ego, sometimes we feel like we know it so well that we forget that others need to be coached and mentored and guided with compassion and grace and dignity.
Absolutely. So much on there. We probably could do an entire episode just on emotional intelligence.
I'm willing to bet we could.
Yep. The next one, transparent expectations. Oh, I love this. Being able to clearly communicate the expectations and the standards from the onset is so vital for us as leaders to make sure that everyone understands their responsibility and that there's going to be an ownership piece to that. So having those conversations where we are being very transparent and honest, and I would say vulnerable in those conversations, so that we all understand, what piece are we going to own, and what, and ultimately that we are going to be held responsible for those pieces. That having those conversations really sets the tone for a healthy relationship with between a leader and the follower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go back to a guiding principle of mine. Unexpected needs rarely get met.
Yes.
Right? Unexpressed needs rarely get met. And if you're not expressing your needs clearly, how can you expect people to meet them? And when I train on this and I coach on this, the example that I love to use is teenagers and dishes. Right? I am convinced that the furthest distance known to man is the distance between the sink and the dishwasher to a teenager.
Yep.
I don't think the James Webb telescope can get pictures of how far that distance is. At least that's my experience.
Yep.
Right. So if you're not expressing your needs clearly, if you're not saying to the person that's washing the dishes, I need you to rinse the dishes off when you're done, and I would like you to put them in the dishwasher. That's the expectation. It's very transparent. It's very clear. But if you don't express your needs, if you're not transparent in that way, and the dishes sit on the counter, whose fault is that? That's on you, right? The only person that you get to get frustrated with at that point is you, because you're not setting transparent expectations. And it's no different in leadership. Now, in large projects, going back to that Scrum model, transparent expectations of what the beginning product is and what the end product is, that can be very clear. But if you're not having regular check-ins on where are we meeting these expectations, then the black and white areas can get gray really quick, right? Because there's always some external factors that come into it.
Absolutely. I mean, let's go to the next one, participative goal setting.
Yeah.
So as a leader, if you're having to set the goals on your own for your teams, man, it's gonna be a rough ride for sure.
Yeah.
You want to be able to allow people to have their peace, while ultimately you have a threshold that you need to meet. The way you get there, uh, everyone works different. Everyone works different. So yeah, the ultimate goal is this, but before you get to that goal, there's some milestones that have to be hit. So why don't you allow your people to be part of that, setting that those milestones and how to get to those milestones so that you get the buy-in. If you don't get the buy-in, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Look, nobody wants to be in a truly authoritative, totalitarian working environment, right? Again, that's the environment of a manager.
Yes.
That's not the environment of a leader. And a leader's job isn't to drive the bus. A leader's job is to build the roadmap, right? Where are we starting? Where are we trying to get to? And then engage your team to be a part of how do we get there? What are the steps that we need to take? And who's going to be responsible for each key piece of it along the way, right? And you're absolutely right. That's how you get buy-in, right? That's how people feel like they're a part of it. We know now with leaders today, and I'm no different than this, right? As my leadership evolution has happened, I've said for a number of years with my leaders, what I want to make is an impact.
Yes.
I want to make an impact, and I want to have a purpose in how I get there. And you and I were talking the other day. Somebody asked me last week if all the shackles were off, if I had all the freedom that I ever wanted, what would be my legacy? And they were talking product driven, right? Yes. What would be my legacy? And I looked at them and I said, a product isn't going to be my legacy. People are going to be my legacy.
Yes.
And the only way people can be my legacy is if I pour into them and let them be participative in what we're doing.
Oh man, that is we had that conversation. That is so key. That is so key in the leadership aspect in so many different ways. let's go to the next one, constructive feedback. This one is a hard one for leaders. And it's a hard one because again, it depends on the relationship that you've built. If you haven't built that relationship where there is that true sense of ownership, the the true sense of, hey, we're going to have those hard conversations if something is not going well. uh have being able to do constructive feedback can be taken in a different connotation depending on, again, the relationship that you have. But as a leader, it is your responsibility to provide constructive feedback. It is your
Yeah,
responsibility to tell someone, hey, you're whoa, hold on, time out. This is not going the way it's supposed to. But how you handle that, how you present that to the people on your teams, it's important. It cannot be you just, fly off the handle and start screaming, hey, you're, whatever, you're doing this wrong, and that's it. No, provide constructive feedback in a way where, like, hold on a second, let's do a timeout. Let's think about this. You know,
yeah,
make them tell you what they're doing wrong. Ask them questions. It's like, hey, let's time out. What do you see that's going wrong here?
Ab- absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. That's what I was going to say. Like, how are they participating in the feedback? Right. And I mean, when we talk about constructive feedback, the number one piece of constructive feedback is emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Do you know how to relate to your team? And because everybody receives information differently, right? I had a sous chef that he and I would talk at length about how we deliver messages, right? And we were talking about how we ask somebody to wash the dishes. Now, say in a restaurant, the dishwasher doesn't show up. Everybody's going to have to take a piece of getting the dishes done, right? So it's one thing to go back to the person in the kitchen and say, "Hey, go wash the dishes," right?
Yeah.
Now, because you're in a position of authority, they're probably going to listen to you. They're probably going to go wash the dishes, but they're going to do it begrudgingly.
Yes.
Now, if you go to that person and say, hey, Jimmy didn't show up to wash the dishes. We're all going to take turns. Can you start it off for us? And I'll make sure that somebody gets back there to help wash the dishes in a little bit. Right. Well, that's going to be more receptive. Right. And so when we're giving constructive feedback, it's important that you highlight the value of the person. I'm not saying that I have a problem with you. I'm saying that there's an issue with the work.
Yes.
And this is my outside perspective. Please tell me what you, who are owning this piece of this work, what do you see? And how do we get back on track? How do we fix it? How do we grow? Do you have the tools that you need? Are you lacking a skill set, that we can help grow? Do you have all of the pieces to the puzzle? What's taking away your time that you're not focusing on it? All of those things are very constructive. All of those things are saying, I'm going to walk with you, right? It's not, I expect you to do this and you're not doing it, and you better get it on track, and what the heck's wrong, right? It's okay. We've got an issue. How do we course correct? How can I help? How can I get you the support that you need? It's that I'm not, I say it to my teams all the time. We rise together, we fall together, but we're going to do it together.
Yep, that's the way it goes. Final one, recognition. So this one, it's
I think you have one more in there, role modeling.
oh, did I miss it? Oh, sorry. Okay, well,
Yeah, and I think role modeling is
uh,
hugely important.
oh my God, that's woo. Okay, let's go there. Go ahead, you start this time, and then
Yeah.
I'll
I
take.
mean, role modeling. When we're talking about role modeling, are you authentic to who you say you are?
Yes.
Are you saying, look, I expect everyone to do this a certain way. but I'm not going to do it that way. I'm the boss. I don't have to do it that way. Right? I'm the leader. I do as I say, not as I do. That's what my dad used to say to me as a kid growing up.
Yes,
do as I say,
here.
not as I do. What kind of example does that? All that says to me is that when I finally get to that position, you know, I'm going to model that same behavior. That's not the right way. You know, I've been very transparent about what type of a leader I was early in my career, and you know, I grew up in kitchens that were, you know, they were very, very rough. They were, you know, the chef would yell at you, the chef would throw things, you could get fired on the spot. I mean, you were worthless in that kitchen. And so that's what I knew when I finally was in charge of kitchens myself. And so I had that same type of, I was role modeling bad behaviors, and I was struggling to understand why people wouldn't stick with me, right? Why I was losing teams. And then I had an incredible mentor who showed me what leading with grace and dignity and compassion and integrity looked like. And I said, holy mackerel, right? That's that emotional intelligence piece. That's that death of ego piece. That's that intentionality piece. Oh, okay. If I truly want to be the leader that I know that I am, well, I have to role model the behaviors that I expect from my team and that I've learned from the great role models that I've had in my life and the mentors that I've had in my life. And now, I mean, you know, teams, my team will follow me into any battle, right? And I have a list of tons of people that I've led in the past, and if I called them right now, they'd do anything for me, right? But it's because I role modeled the behavior that I expected.
Absolutely, man. Walking the talk.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that whole thing. So growing up, I can't say this enough. My dad was the, you know, for me, greatest man I ever knew. And he has my dad was a man of a few words, but every time he spoke, I listened because he was intentful in what he said, and very, very sharp. And he told me all the time, you know, you carry yourself the way you want people to treat you. And part of that is making sure that if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Walking the talk. That is
Absolutely.
vital for leaders. If you are, and I know I fell into this trap in my first leadership position of, yeah, we have to do this, but I was doing this. It didn't match.
Yeah.
It didn't match. And that wasn't fun at all. Because you're going this way, they're going this way. It's just a reality. They only listen to you for a certain period of time because you're the boss, but are they truly, you know, going to be following you? Absolutely not.
Right.
So if you want people to truly, uh, if you want people to follow you and you guys have great success, like Tanner spoke about here and when he was speaking, it's you have to role model the behavior that you want from your team.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's also goes to the point of really if you don't have a good boss, then you know what? Show them, you know, what a good boss is.
Yep.
You show
I
them
couldn't
what a
agree
good
more.
you show them what a good boss is. Eventually they will get it. Trust me.
Yes, they will.
All right. I'm sorry for trying to really skip on that one because it's one that's really important. Recognition. When we speak about recognition, one of the things that I love that I love to do with my teams is being able to recognize the small wins.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about having a huge party and when we get there, we're going to do this. And anytime you hear that from a leader when we get there, when we do this, and it's something when that is years ahead, and it's you can't even see it coming, you fail.
Yep.
No, recognize the small wins. When you see someone, hey, I've been coaching you on this, and now you start doing things the right way and start having success, recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, something small, oh man, now you see them like change automatically and really get into a groove of like, okay, well, let me try something else. This worked, let me try something else. And that's how you see the growth in people.
Well, and again, that goes back to being a good leader versus a manager. You know, it's kind of like that butterfly effect, that a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world and it causes a hurricane on the other side.
Yes.
If your team recognizes that you are watching, that you are paying attention, that just like you're going to give them honest, constructive feedback, that you're also going to recognize their efforts, it engages them. They know that you value them, and that it's not just about them delivering on a product, right? Or them delivering on an end result. And as you're leading your teams, you have to recognize how people like to be recognized, right? Some people love to be, have shout outs in a group setting. Some just want a little note, and I will tell you 100% of the time, if you take the effort to write a little note to somebody that you recognize has put in significant effort, or has done something that deserves that recognition, and you deliver that to them, the return on that is exponential every time, every single time, because they go, wow, my leader truly knows that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. They truly know that I'm engaged in this. They truly know that I'm a part of this. You can't, that's the type of goodwill that you can't buy. Yep. And it's as simple as taking 2 to 3 minutes to just write a little note and say, hey, I saw you do this. I'm so proud of you. This is the type of work that drives our team forward. This is the type of performance that drives our team forward. You are a valuable member of our team, and I appreciate you. It's as simple as that, right? Those 3 words at the end carry so much weight, as long as you're intentional, as long as you're authentic, right? Somebody just saying, I appreciate you. Well, for what? Do you even know me? Right. But if you're truly leading your team and you tell somebody, a player on your team, I appreciate what you do. And here's what I noticed. And I appreciate that. Game changer. Game changer.
100%. All right. So we ran through that. Not really. I think we're over an hour now. So this is this was number 5 in the 6 guidelines for Bill Walsh. Stick around. The next one is going to be a fun one. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.